Good afternoon, members, friends, and guests of the German American Business Council of Boston. My name is Leslie Griffin, and I'm Vice President and a member of the Board of Directors of the GABC. It is a pleasure for me to welcome our audience members today who are joining from Boston, around the United States, and also from Europe. The GABC is a membership-based business association here in Boston. And this event is the fourth in our series of virtual panel discussions on technologies powering smart cities. This is also the topic for our in-person German American Economic Forum, which we've had to postpone due to the pandemic, but hope to revive later this year. The broad theme of smart cities allows us to look at the future of cities from multiple perspectives, including an area that may not always be front of mind, but is very important, and that is waste management. Achieving a circular economy is a focus of Germany's environmental agenda. And since the early 1990s, work has been ongoing to transform waste management into a resource management system. To take up these issues, we are delighted to be joined today by a German expert in waste management solutions and a representative from German global logistics giant DHL here in the United States. We are looking forward to a conversation on how the pandemic-induced spike in the delivery economy may prompt a movement for better process and packaging solutions, waste reduction, and better waste management. Let me introduce our speakers today. Megan Walski is the Innovation Engagement Manager at DHL in the United States, with more than 10 years experience in global supply chain and logistics. Megan works for DHL's America's Innovation Center in Chicago, which is a platform to engage customers, startups, and industries of the future of logistics. She joins us today from that very innovation center, and we will be able to get an inside peek of it. Joining all the way from Dubai is Sebastian Frisch, Senior Partner at Black Forest Solutions, an international waste management consultancy. Sebastian has 18 years of experience in waste management consulting and has worked in more than 60 countries, including practical experience in something called Extended Producer Responsibility, EPR, for solid waste management and the circular economy sector. His current project is in Kuwait. Moderating this discussion is Annette Wiedenbach, who is Country Manager for China at Climate Scorecard and a 2018-2019 Fellow of the Special Program for Urban and Regional Studies at MIT. Annette is currently based in Boston, but has lived and worked in global and local government affairs and sustainability leadership positions in Germany, China, Taiwan, and Singapore. Annette is also a member of our own GABC Smart Cities Task Force and its content lead for the 2021 event series and conference. So welcome to all of our panelists. At this time, we would like to say thank you and acknowledge Siemens as our lead sponsor for this event series and for our upcoming forum. So thank you very much to Siemens. And with that, let me pass the mic to Annette to take us through the program today.
Thank you very much, Leslie. And also from me, a very warm welcome to our audience, as well as our panelists. And a very special thank you to Sebastian, who has kindly agreed to sacrifice his evening, because it's 9 p.m. in the evening in Dubai. So we want to talk a little bit about the relationship between the delivery economy and waste management. And you may wonder what that is. And if we were in a normal in-person situation, we'd be facing each other in a audience situation. And I would ask for a raise of or a show of hands on two questions that I have. The first one is, who has over the past 12 months increasingly ordered groceries online or bought things on Amazon for which you would normally pop down to a store to get them, or increasingly ordered to take out from your favorite restaurants to support them? Okay, I can see Megan has done that. I would, Yep, there's a couple of hands there. Very good. The second question I would have is, and who has felt just a pang of guilt at the amount of packaging and wrappings and plastic containers that, yep, okay, thank you, very good. So wonderful. I love social media when you have the hands. Okay, so I think we can agree that it is starting to get a bit worrisome. And I actually recently also reached out to the city of Boston, to the relevant department, and asked them whether they've seen any spikes during the COVID pandemic in waste and recycling. They actually said they did. At the height of the lockdown in May, April last year, they've seen a spike of 25% more waste and recycling volume that they picked up just in the city of Boston. That has evened out to about 5 to 10% over the year. But what they've also seen is far more calls from concerned citizens being worried about their mounds of waste and packaging and asking where that goes in terms of recycling. So I think we do have, with the pandemic, a window of opportunity to actually talk about the question, how are we dealing with our stuff? How can we actually achieve more circularity with the products we buy, how they're produced, how they're being used, how they're being disposed of, how they're being designed as well. So the idea about circular economy today is to touch upon certain aspects of it. We won't be able to be exhaustive just simply because we would need a few more stakeholders on the table to close the entire circle. And we only have 60 minutes. We don't have 2 days to discuss that. So today we were looking mainly at how we can create packaging and wrappings maybe in a less resource intensive way, and how can we actually deal with them better at the back end when they need to be disposed of, or can they actually be fed back into the system to become new materials. And of course, we are going to discuss what the role of digital as well as clean tech is in achieving just a better circular economy approach. Before I go into the Q&A, I would like to give our two panelists the opportunity to tell us a little bit about who they are, who they work for, and how their companies contribute to a circular economy and our topic today. And ladies first, that's always the easiest. Let's start with Megan. Tell us where you are and what we see, because I think we see a truck behind you.
Yes, so Megan Wolski, I work at the Innovation Center in Chicago, or DHL's America's Innovation Center. This behind me is actually our street scooter. I say ours because DHL used to build these. Long story short, we're no longer building them, not because we're not dedicated to sustainability, but it's just easier and sometimes cheaper to just buy it. But we built this because nobody wanted to build us an electric vehicle for our delivery fleets. This is back a few years ago now. Many OEMs said electrification, you don't need that. It's not really a thing. And we pushed through and we pushed on and said, yes, we want to reduce our emissions. So this is our street scooter. It just represents our Mission 2050 here at DHL. Our Mission 2050 is having zero carbon emissions related to our logistics activities by the year 2050. So this is just one part of a much larger building that I'm sitting in. We have about 30,000 square feet. This is a customer engagement facility, and we are talking about all kinds of topics with our customers. And this is one of 3 across the globe. We also have one in Troisdorf, Germany, near our DPDHL headquarters in Bonn. And we also have one in Singapore for our Asia Pacific customers and region there. Each one is a little bit specific to the region. To my left, if you could see, we have some robots over here, as robotics is a hot topic in warehousing and logistics across North America, and digitalization in Latin America. But we're really focusing on all kinds of topics: virtual reality, augmented reality, Internet of Things. IoT devices are very popular both in our homes and now coming into our supply chains as we look to get everything online. But back to sustainability, Sustainability is probably the biggest topic we have with our customers, biggest topic of conversation we're having with our customers, not just in, say, the e-com or B2C area, but also in our B2B customers and industries that you typically wouldn't think about. So chemicals and manufacturing, they're also looking to understand how they can reduce their carbon emissions through things like packaging. Maybe it's not a flyer or an envelope, maybe it's more around their palletized goods or their bulk goods. It is obviously a super hot topic for our retail and fashion and consumer customers. And really the sustainability for them is around parcel shipping, again, that B2C. So how can we help them optimize it? How can we help them focus on packaging that is sustainable, so biodegradable, compostable, and even reusable. So we're really starting to see more reusable options, especially as we get more into subscription-based services, as many of us are now, you know, our shampoo, we're going to order it once a month. So can we turn that into a reusable container? So we're looking at all kinds of different aspects here and not really just focusing on one area.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Sebastian, what does Black Forest Solutions do? Certainly not cake, but waste.
Yeah, that's true, right? So my name is Sebastian Frisch. I'm the founder of Black Forest Solutions, and unfortunately, we are not manufacturing Black Forest cake, but we are giving advice on solutions for waste management. And we are doing this in 3 different areas. So one is a very general, broad term of waste management, where we are developing concepts, strategies, and solutions that can be implemented for all sorts of waste. There are about 800 different types of waste in the world. So it's a very broad from infectious hospital waste, medical waste that also grown a lot during the Corona time, industrial waste, and then up to household waste, residual waste, so the whole range. Our clients there are sometimes international organizations like United Nations or World Bank, sometimes whole countries like in Kuwait, that what Annette or Leslie mentioned. There we are developing a national waste management plan for the Emirate of Kuwait in the Middle East. Sometimes also private companies that are asking us for providing them solutions for waste management in general. Then we have a specific topic related to hazardous waste and industrial waste. Here we are shipping hazardous waste from countries where there are no treatment capacities or treatment facilities. That we are shipping the hazardous waste from those countries to countries where there are actually treatment capacities and treatment facilities. We're using the global legal framework of the Basel Convention that allows a transboundary shipment of hazardous waste. And the third part we are working in is actually the extended producer responsibility, which I think the EPR is a mega trend and very important for modern waste management also in the future. And later I will talk more about it. And part of EPR and extended producer responsibility is, for example, also take-back schemes. And when we talk about electromobility and smart cities, electric vehicles, you will see that there's a lot of, or a big increase of lithium batteries, actually. And lithium batteries are very difficult to treat, to recycle. And we are providing take-back schemes worldwide to collect them locally, store them, transport them safely, and then also treat them in specialized treatment facilities. This is what Black Forest Solutions is doing.
Great, great. Well, thank you very much for this introduction. I have a couple of questions for you, but before I go into the Q&A, I would actually like to ask our audience to remember that if you have any questions already now, or if you start having questions while we speak, please put them in the chat. There's a few people here, including myself, who will be looking at the chat and repeat the questions for you, because we do want to have like your thoughts and an interesting conversation on our topic today. But let me maybe start with Megan on a more general note. We've seen a lot of deliveries. We've seen a lot of stuff being ordered online during the pandemic. Do you think we will, if once we get the pandemic a bit more manageable, I would say, do you think we'll ever go back to like the old normal, or will we just see a continued trend of expanding e-commerce, of expanding buying things through digital technology?
No, I think this is our new normal. Don't get me wrong. All right, so Trader Joe's fan, they have a line. So I've been using Amazon.com for all of my groceries. When Trader Joe's no longer has a line, maybe I go there a little bit more, but I've really enjoyed having my groceries delivered. I think that this is a new baseline for us, a baseline that we thought we would hit in maybe 5 to 10 years. I think we're here now. So I don't think there's any going back. Many companies have had to quickly learn how to ramp up or quickly ramp up their e-com business, as just as a blanket term. And so they're prepared now. They're ready to go, and customers are used to it.
Okay, all right. But with that, if we ramp it up, we will see even more. Yeah, well, waste coming, because with the product becomes packaging and things like this. I'm just wondering where does the responsibility ultimately lie for dealing with all the things that come with your product. And I think, Sebastian, you talked a little bit about extended producer responsibility, but shouldn't the responsibility to be dealing with it not also lie with the consumer, maybe buying less, or with the governments providing pickup solutions, or with those who produce, or even with DHL who's shipping all these things? Whose ultimately responsibility to dealing with all the waste fallout?
I think there are mainly two types of responsibilities. So first of all, in my opinion, the responsibility lies at the producer of the product, and at the one who distributes actually the packaging waste, which is actually also the critical waste stream. I mean, there are waste that are not so critical, that can be recycled, like PET bottles or certain plastics that can easily recycled. But especially when it comes to packaging waste, here multi-layer packaging waste, it's very difficult to actually treat these type of waste, and the responsibility in terms of financial responsibility lies in my opinion at the producer's side, because the producer is also the one that makes profit with the product, and once the product reaches its end of life, once it becomes waste, then it should be also the responsibility of the one who makes profit to take care of it. And responsibility means actually paying for a proper system, collection system and a treatment system. A second responsibility can be a bit voluntarily on the consumer side, that also we as consumers have the possibility and the chance to take a responsibility. What I don't believe in personally is that we will really be able to consume less. So when you look at mankind and the way how we are in our DNA, I lost hope a little bit. I mean, of course, we can do every day a little bit less of consumption, but it's not only us every day to consume less. When you think about other markets worldwide, what happens in China, in Asia, those people have the same rights, right? We cannot say, well, now it's time to consume less in Asia. Everybody has the right to consume. So I think it's more to implement systems smart waste management systems that can cope and that are able to find solutions also when there's an increasing consumption.
Megan, ultimately, he just made DHL also responsible for all the packaging and waste. What is your thought? What would be your reply?
So I think that as a partner to our customers, we have a responsibility of helping them. This is what we do at the Innovation Center. Without going too long into this, we essentially are helping our customers. We're connecting our customers to startups and other organizations that can help them in their innovation journey. So I think it's our responsibility to connect our customers to organizations like Better Packaging. So this is a 100% biodegradable flyer. You would normally get your t-shirt or your pair of pants or whatever you order from ASOS or Zara, whoever. I think that's our responsibility to help our customers in that journey. But then also, how can we look at the things that we do that contribute to this on our Express division, for example. We ship products and flyers and boxes. So yes, I think that there are some parts of our business units that are also responsible for this as well.
Now, very often when we see sustainable or organic or biological, it ultimately means also a higher price tag. Now, if you say you're shifting your packaging material to become more reusable, recyclable, compostable even, or biodegradable even, does that increase your cost? And would you shift then the cost to the consumers? And do you actually see that consumers are willing to pay more, or do you think? Yeah.
So I think there's as always, it depends. First and foremost, it depends. But I think there's also different ways to look at this. So as always, there may be a little bit, the packaging, for example. Let's think about your typical cardboard box or what you're shipping. It starts with optimization. So how can we optimize packaging? And there a lot of times when an organization looks at their packaging and looks to start moving in a more sustainable way, they look at how they can reduce the amount of air that they're shipping. As you know, we've all received that box from Amazon that may have something the size of like a chapstick, and it's in a giant box. So reducing there, that's going to save money. Also, sometimes packaging can be big and bulky. And if we look to make it more sustainable, we might be able to shrink it. So again, saving money on the shipping end. So there's that option. Also, consumers are willing to spend more money on a product they see as more sustainable. And I'm not saying thousands of dollars more. There was a recent study from Accenture where they said consumers are willing to spend about 5 to 6% more on a product, and they're also willing to switch companies that can provide a more sustainable product or packaging. So again, maybe you're increasing your market share because you're offering that sustainability, that sustainable option. But one thing I also mentioned, the 5 to 6% number comes from the age or the demographic of 18 to 34 years old, and their buying power is really, really large. When they did this study, it was about $350 billion that they're spending. So there is opportunity there to recoup costs or to save money at the same time.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I would agree, because you would ultimately see younger people also paying a little bit more for food. Although I would say that's a certain social strata as well. Do you think? Because I think Sebastian, in our pre-discussions, we had a bit of a discussion about that willingness applying also to waste management solutions. And I remember. When we were talking with Emily, there's a big discussion in her suburb about people getting a smaller bin now to put all their waste in, and for every additional bin they would like to have, they would actually have to pay the community, and that seems to be a bit of a hot topic. What is your experience with the area of waste management?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are normally talking to emerging countries, so like countries in the Middle East, in certain Asian countries. But I think the same applies for any country in Europe or also US, that there's this big worry and scare that there's now a lot of burden, a lot of cost coming to the products. And also to the citizens and municipalities. But actually this has been proven wrong, right? So in Germany, there's an EPR system already since 30 years. And we have seen that the products that are falling under the EPR and where the producers of those products have to pay, that those products are not significantly more expensive than without an EPR system. So we are talking for any packaging, say a beverage can or toilet paper or any consumable good, we are talking in a range of less than 1% of extra cost that is on this product. In reality, it's even far less than 1%. It's more 0.1, 0.2% extra cost. When it comes to the citizen, we are talking about $100 maybe per year on extra cost for a very modern, smart waste management system. And when I say smart and modern waste management system, this means without landfill. So whatever we having as a perspective is that we want to divert waste from landfill. And I know that there's a discussion in the USA going on. You maybe say, well, we still have landfills. We have a lot of land, a lot of space. Hey, we can afford landfills. But landfills actually are really a barrier and a burden for any innovation, for any innovative treatment technology. And it does not mean like if you ban landfills, like what we have done in Germany in 2005, that this would lead to a significant increase in pricing. It's possible to have a very reasonable waste management structure, a very low extra cost on prices, so less than 1% or 0.1% in some cases, and still at the same time have no landfills for untreated waste management. So there is a possibility, and this is proven already since decades in Europe, for example.
Okay. At this point, again, I would like a show of hands here of who among the audience is willing to pay more for more sustainable solutions, and who is actually already paying more for sustainable solutions. Okay, I see one hand. 2, 3, yep. Okay, we're getting there. But I think we still need to do a little bit of convincing. I don't see enough hands yet. We're not yet at 100%. But I guess I think it's a good indicator that there is a public or a clientele out there that is willing to help change the way how we deal with the things that we consume, that we produce, and the waste that comes up with it. I've got a few more questions before I open up into the audience questions, because we've gotten quite a few of them. If there is a willingness to pay more, both for waste management solutions as well as for better sustainable products, what are the technologies, clean technologies, product technologies, design technologies, digital technologies, etc., that would be worthwhile investing in? What is it that you're working with that is interesting to, scale and distribute broader across the US or any country, really?
Yeah, so DHL, we have a operations science team that sits within one of our business units, and they have a patented product that attaches to a warehouse management system to help our, specifically our B2C customers or that are shipping small parcels. I mentioned that, the chapstick in the giant box. So we have a product that will actually do all of that for our customer. And without going too much into it, it basically will tell our customer that, okay, for this specific order, use box number 3, and then it will show a picture of how to load that box in the most optimal way to, again, avoid shipping less air. So we're looking at it from, that's a pure data science tool, or there's all these heuristics and all these things that I can't get into because I don't know. But so we have a tool there. We're looking at technology from that aspect to drive that. But then also things like reusable. So we have a box, or this is one of many sizes. I don't know how well you can see this since I'm not really standing up, but this is a collapsible box made out of recycled plastic bottles. And so this would ship, so again, this is more of like a subscription type service. You could put your product in here. So as a manufacturer, I put my product in here, put a label on it, send it off to the customer. They can take the product out, do whatever they want with it. With a prepaid shipping label, they just zip this back up. It goes pretty flat. Put the label back on, the new label on, and ship it back to our warehouses. And our warehouse teams will inspect it, clean it, do what they need to do, and then use it for another shipment for our customers. So we're looking at all kinds of, we get that the end all be all isn't recyclable. How do we reduce the amount that we're throwing away that's going into the ground, even if it is compostable? How can we avoid maybe doing some of those activities? And so we are looking at reusable type shipping materials.
Okay, great. That just reminded me, the recycled bottle made out of recycled bottles. Sebastian, you were talking about take-back schemes earlier, and in the sense of like feeding plastic materials or feeding recyclables back into the system. How would take-back schemes be a solution for both waste as well as also from a financing perspective?
Yeah, maybe before I answer this question, I would like to make one short point on also the willingness of paying more. It's on the consumer's side, so we raised our hand, and I think this is really happening. But it's especially on the producer's side. So when I'm observing this waste management sector now since 18 years, when we talked about the same topic 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, this was still under the headline of greenwashing, and there were some projects just like I-wash projects and a little bit of CSR, but now it has dramatically changed. I think this marine litter debate, also was a bit of a trigger and pushed this debate further. And since 2-3 years, it is extremely serious, and the amounts that producers and large brands like Nestle and Procter & Gamble and Unilever and all those fast consumer goods manufacturers, they are spending in the meantime billions of euros extra, billions of euros, and it's also a political factor. And this is totally different than when we compare this 10 years ago. So there's very or a much higher willingness to pay more on the consumer, on the producer's side. When it comes to technologies, I would like to highlight technologies that are referring to this EPR system, the Extended Producer Responsibility System, because here we need technologies that create a transparency in the whole process. So you can imagine there are so many stakeholders involved, from the one who is producing the packaging to the one who is consuming, collecting, treating. So there are so many stages and processes, and later it's also about money, right? So who is paying how much for what? And for the whole process, you need transparency. And this transparency you can bring through digital technologies, tracking and tracing technologies. And the magnitude of those technologies, this is also, again, huge. When you think about how Amazon can track as a generator and the one who is distributing the packaging, how can they bring transparency in their process? through digital tracking systems. This is just for Amazon, but imagine for everyone who produces something, literally everyone. The one who produces lithium batteries, smartphones, everything. So you need a tracking system based on an EPR, an extended producer responsibility system. And those technologies are very interesting to create. We are at the very early stage at the moment. There is not much available worldwide. And also maybe we have a chance to speak shortly about what can the consumer side do. There are so-called offsetting certificates. You can offset your negative plastic and waste footprint by using also a software and the platform which you may know from carbon offsetting. So if you fly a lot or you have a high CO2 emission, you can, as a private person, you can already offset your CO2 footprint. The same is now available since 2-3 years for plastic waste. So this is also all along digital technologies. When it comes to waste treatment systems, it's still rather old school. So we are talking about refuse-derived fuel. This is now very technical, not go too much into detail. What is rather new now is that people looking more serious into chemical recycling of especially mixed waste, mixed plastic waste. This is happening and being much more specific now in the last 3-4 years. Yeah, so to turn waste into, for example, fuel, or to break it down into chemicals again. This is rather new now.
Okay, great. Yeah, chemolysis. I was talking to the American Chemistry Council a while ago about that solution of dissolving chemicals and plastics and bringing it back to the original chemicals that make plastics, which would be great if that is feasible. But I actually heard that there is one major problem in the US, and that's the US is basing a lot of its energy on shale gas and fracking, for which you actually don't need as many crackers as for oil. And Europe is putting a lot more energy or plastic derivations on the crackers from oil. So there is more naphtha crackers, or there are more naphtha crackers in Germany rather than, or in Europe rather than in the US, and therefore the chemolysis development has shifted more towards Europe than to the US because of that infrastructure issue. So it was actually quite interesting from a chemical point of view. So more my backyard there. I wanted to there's a couple of aspects here, and I wanted to go to some of the reactions from the audience, and in no particular order here. You mentioned lithium batteries, Sebastian, and one question was, how can lithium batteries be, or what technologies are out there to deal with lithium batteries, and what could be better solutions for those batteries that are rather hard to recycle? Any ideas?
Well, yeah. So I think first of all we have to be aware that there will be a revolution. Really, it's a big word, but here it's I think the right word. We will dramatically change from lead acid batteries to a very high amount in a short time of lithium batteries, and whereas lead acid batteries from normal cars based on fuel, this was easy to recycle. There's sulfuric acid inside and lead, obviously, and you can recover lead, and there were many quite easy and not sophisticated treatment facilities for lead recovery. Now lithium batteries has all sorts of problems. It starts from the dismantling, actually before you can properly pack it. Then it needs to have a special packaging, a special transportation, because it's so reactive that when it's not transported well and safe, you know maybe the YouTube videos where you have these explosions and reactions, it can create very bad damage to everything. And then finally, once it reaches one of the very few available treatment facilities worldwide, then those treatment facilities are expensive at the moment and also difficult to operate. They are working mainly based on hydrometallurgical processes, so melting it and then recovering not only lithium but also other precious metals that are in those batteries. But the logistics part, to collect all those in 200 countries in the world, and then we come back to it is a hazardous waste. This is classed as a hazardous waste. And now you have to bring hazardous waste in a transboundary shipment from a remote country in the world to another country where there are those treatment facilities. That's a massive challenge. And who is responsible for it, right? That's the producer of the car in this sense. So Tesla and BMW and Tata and all the Chinese new manufacturers, they are obliged to take back their lithium batteries worldwide. And our company is already involved in certain take-back schemes. So we get emails and say, you have to pick up 6 lithium batteries in the Maldives. Yeah, and then you have to find in the Maldives someone who is capable to do the dismantling, the storage. Then you need to contact the local environmental authorities and so forth. It's a massive challenge. And then you have 6 here and 10 there, but you will have soon 40,000, 100,000 of tons of lithium batteries spread across the whole globe. So a massive challenge is coming there.
Wow. Okay. Talking about take back, and we're talking also about reusable earlier, and that brings me to a question also from the audience. During COVID times, I think taking back and reusing may have its challenges because of people being afraid that somehow the virus is still on surfaces. It may or may not be, I don't know. But Megan, do you see any issues with that in the future? Do you see a reluctance of people to say, well, maybe I just use one time usable packaging or products, because at least then it's not going to contaminate anyone? What is your thought on that?
You're right. So at the very beginning, we've had a lot of conversations with our customers, especially those that are using plastic bottles and as part of just that's how they bottle their product, whether it's shampoo or it's some other kind of consumer product. It was very hard to get plastic. I think now, as we start to learn more about the novel virus, we start to get people vaccinated, I think you will start to see I think people will start to be a little bit more comfortable with the idea of a reusable. I don't think necessarily that's going to be a lasting effect for majority of people. Don't get me wrong. There's always, exceptions, and there's always different populations. And maybe if you are immunocompromised, maybe you're just not willing to do that. And that's 100% understandable. But I think if, a reputable organization is telling you that, we are sanitizing these, if there's a certification of some sort, I think that people are going to be okay with that as this COVID now becomes part of our life, like the flu, if that's the case.
Right. Sebastian, you were talking earlier about medical waste. I remember hospital and medical waste. From a waste solution perspective, what do you think needs to be done, and how is that going to maybe change how we do waste or how we deal with waste?
Yeah, from a global perspective, there were already big challenges before Corona with infectious medical waste. So the existing systems couldn't cope with the amount before. And now I'm in UAE at the moment, and here we have now during Corona 4 times the amount of what we had before of infectious medical waste, and the whole system just collapsed. So it literally collapsed, and this is also true for many countries in the world. It's a big drama again, and I think the solution here is to have very fast, decentralized treatment solutions that we can employ fast, and there are available treatment like incinerators, for example, that are in sea containers and that can be moved to remote areas, and we need to look at decentralized solutions there, and also the whole chain again, from the generation in the hospitals up to the final point of incineration must be well covered, must be tracked, There must be a certain packaging for infectious medical waste. But at the moment, so the situation was so fast and the development that no one could really cope with that. And I think we have to learn for the future, if this happens again, how to set up proper systems for infectious medical waste. I think now the awareness is really there worldwide for the topic.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it's medical waste from hospitals, I think, is one thing, but the other thing that we're seeing is a lot of, well, disposable masks. You wear them once, you put them in a trash, and trash goes into landfill. Should they really be in landfill? Should they be incinerated? But then also with regards to incineration, is it better to landfill something, or is it better to incinerate something? Because I think from the carbon emissions point of view, incineration is good if you use it for waste to thermal energy, and you feed the energy back into the system. But at the same time, it would also deal with the medical waste in terms of burning it rather than burying it. But at the same time, incineration causes fumes, exhaust, with quite a lot of carbon dioxide in there. What is your view on landfill versus incineration?
Well, there I have a very clear view. It's a very clear answer. So definitely incineration is much better, because you have sophisticated flue gas cleaning treatment systems. So I would easily live just next to a hazardous waste incinerator with my house. I'm saying this here, but I would really think this. So hazardous waste incineration, if you have a modern one, the flue gas treatment systems are so good in the meantime, and if you have also a serious operator, a professional operator, that's anyways much better than landfill. So landfilling is always the last option. And for infectious medical waste, just imagine you, not only for Corona or COVID-19, you have HIV, you have so many potentially fatal diseases. If there's just one accident and someone gets infected, it's absolutely not worth it. Landfill is always the worst option. So the incineration is better, in my opinion.
Okay, great. A question from the audience, and that's an overarching question to Megan and Sebastian. What role can the government play in reducing waste, improving waste management? What role would policy play? What role would government investment play? Any thoughts on that? Maybe Megan, I think you're unmuted.
Yeah, and I think this is part of also just a frustration of mine. So as somebody who tries to recycle, who tries to lower their carbon footprint, I live in the city of Chicago. Recycling is very difficult, and don't quote me on the number here, but there was a study that came out that Chicago actually only recycles, like, I want to say like 20%, which is a very small number of what actually goes into the blue bin in the alley. So I think that there is a part of one, the government understanding, what they're capable of and what they're not, and how can they support their citizens to be better recyclers, whether it's through knowledge campaigns or it's through increasing their abilities or working with organizations that can help them increase their ability. So I think there is a part of government there that is responsible, but then I think it also comes back on the consumer to, do their fair share.
Right. Sebastian, do you want to chime into that?
Yeah, I think what Megan is saying, right? So the awareness campaign is very important, and is definitely in the scope of the municipalities when it comes to waste management. Another thing is that municipalities and governments, they can be more brave and more strict in conveying also bad messages. And one bad message is that so that waste management costs some money. It has to be financed, and we should not always look for the cheapest solution like landfilling, and also convey this message to the citizens, and maybe not listen to lobbying groups and to people who say this and that is right. So you should really go for common sense and for this state-of-the-art, say, solutions, and be more independent. So that would be one comment here from that point of view.
Okay. Okay. I think that there is a question that I should ask to Megan, because you were talking about your compostable and products that are also based on recycled materials, but then there's also the biodegradable materials based on methane or seaweed or sugars, etc. But it seems they have so far struggled to gain tractions. And the question is, are there any thoughts on why that is, why these products have failed to really scale and become any bigger? Any ideas on that from either of you, Sebastian or Megan?
So I don't have a great answer for you. So I kind of want to push to Sebastian. My assumption would be either maybe the take back. So as we mentioned before, like that supply chain, kind of the reverse logistics of it. But I would default to Sebastian on that one. I don't know.
Well, when it comes to biodegradable material, then there are also a couple of disadvantages. So one is that so although it's biodegradable, it still takes a while until it's really degraded. Much less than plastics, but you need to really wait for, and sometimes quite a long time, still talking about years. And biodegradable plastics can also not be recycled, right? So you have to dispose them, you have to landfill them. And this is also maybe one more point to share with the audience, in my point of view, that it's not always so clear that plastic is the devil, right? So when we're thinking about plastic packaging and the common sense maybe in the public as well, plastic is really, really bad. But plastic can have a better ecological footprint than cotton or than biodegradable plastic or paper even. So it's not always so straightforward. And again, I would say if you have a proper EPR system, well implemented and professionally operated, then plastic can play even a positive role. And that's why I think still biodegradable plastics have not really made their way into our products. And that's why also cotton and paper is still struggling.
To your point about biodegradable plastic, we do have one. So the one company, we found one company that has actually created a biodegradable, 100% biodegradable plastic, and we're using it for shrink wrap. So like wrapping pallets. But it takes I think they said 2.5 years. Once it's completely buried in dirt, it still takes 2.5 years to biodegrade.
Yeah.
And it's the one company we have found. But yeah, so it's definitely still difficult.
Yeah, and do you think coming again back to the government, do you think if government legislation and government regulation could spur that development? Because I think if you're talking about circular economy, you're also talking about the design of a product and what goes into the product. Do you think that there should be or better government regulation and policy could help here?
This is a very important point, Annette. This is very true. This is so the design of packaging. There really we can do much more. And by the way, there was just one comment I saw flying here that one participant said that biodegradable plastics also cause microplastic. This is also true. So you will have some microplastics.
Not always.
Not always, right? Okay.
Because this one doesn't. I did want to say that, like at DHL, we do not use anything that's oxo-degradable, which is what turns into microplastics. So those are two different, biodegradable and oxo-degradable. And we have made a statement that we will refuse to use any oxo-degradable within our operations.
Yeah, I've also seen plastics, biodegradable plastics that are fully diluted in water, and people putting it and stirring it, and then afterwards drinking even in the water. I'm not sure, but there are many different options. But when it comes to design, there are easy things. For example, if you have black plastics, dark plastics, these are more difficult to sort and to recycle, because if you have modern sorting facilities, they work with so-called near-infrared sorting sensors. and this infrared is then absorbed in black colors, and it's not reflected. So lighter colors are better. Or if you have PVC in it, PVC is also very difficult when it is mixed with other plastics. So when you have a PET bottle with a PVC label, this is just, sorry, but bullshit, right? This is really, really bad. It doesn't make sense, and those are easy things on the design level, and this can be implemented, and here the government can play a role on that. So to your question before, this is something besides what we said before, where they can have an influence and make the regulations and the laws for what packaging should look like, what design it should have.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because my heart bleeds every time I look at my black takeout box that I get when I try and support my favorite Italian restaurant around the corner, because I want him to actually survive the pandemic. But each time I get it, I'm just really devastated because it needs to go into the trash and not into the recycling. I need to wrap up shortly. I was told that time is over, but I have one question, and I think that's a question that's very relevant for the US, because every time we talk about a green transition or a transition, the big question comes up with, okay, but if we transition away from the old industry, that means we're going to lose a lot of jobs, people will be losing their jobs, etc. And I grew up in Germany in the 70s and the 80s, and for me, recycling became second nature, and the waste industry, I remember, created a lot of jobs. And maybe, Sebastian, from your point of view, what is the potential of creating jobs in the recycling and waste management if it's done right and regulated in the right way?
Yeah, so just when you think about packaging waste and EPR, so Germany is collecting every year from the packaging producers 1.2 billion euros from them. And what I said before, the products itself far less than 1% more expensive, but we can collect 1.2 billion euros. So Germany or German people are not more environment friendly; they're only more efficient how to collect this money from the producers. And now think about the US, so tiny Germany with only 80 million people, and now all the consumption and packaging in US, and this also creates in Germany a total turnover for circular economy of about 80 billion euros. Is the economy that is directly related to waste management. And we are talking about 350,000 jobs that are directly related to waste management. So it's actually a big economy in Germany, and we are exporting these solutions and the success there. And this is also not seen when you think about, okay, let's make it quick and cheap and landfill. You don't get all this economic power of circular economy when you just landfill waste.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. I've been reminded that our time is up, and I would have liked to ask a lot more questions, especially also with regards to who else needs to be on the table, etc. Maybe Megan, one last thought from your side. Who needs to be on the table for circular economy? You've got a minute.
I think it needs to be the producers. I think it needs to be the consumers. I think it's everybody within the supply chain, because everyone has to buy into it for it to work.
I think that's a good last word. We've got to be everybody on one table there. With that, I would like to thank our two panelists, Megan and Sebastian, our audience for their plentiful and a plethora of questions. That was really great. And I'm handing back to Emily for some previews on the next events.
Excellent, perfect. Yes, and we're right on time. It's 1 o'clock, and it was a really, really interesting hour, I have to say, in this series. And I know a lot of engagement from our participants as well, because I think, you know, it is a topic that, you know, we are all aware. I mean, we obviously deal with it on a personal level. So to hear from it on, you know, a manufacturer side, you know, somebody who actually works to reduce it from DHL is incredibly enlightening. So absolutely, thank you. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you for joining, Megan from Chicago and Sebastian from the Middle East incredible. This is what virtual events make possible. So I do want to share with you quickly that we are continuing this teaser series. And our next Smart Cities event is going to be on March 18th on alternative energy models. You'll see an announcement on our website very soon. We also do offer other events throughout the months. Please check out what we have in store and join us for any of that might sound of interest to you. So with that, I say goodbye to the different parts of this world, and I hope to see you again. And I thank everybody, in particular our panelists and Annette, for bringing us all together here. This was immensely interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.